Imagine this. You're in a room full of people, all striving for success. Some play fair, work hard, and stay true to their values. Others lie, manipulate, and trample over anyone in their way. And yet, it's often the ruthless ones who climb the highest. Why? Is the world truly rigged in favor of the worst among us? History, politics, business, everywhere you look, you'll find examples of individuals who, despite their lack of morality, have achieved extraordinary power. From ruthless emperors to cutthroat CEOs, the pattern repeats itself. But this isn't just a coincidence. It's a feature of human nature, deeply embedded in our evolutionary psychology and social structures. In a world where resources are scarce, competition is inevitable. Those who hesitate, who seek fairness at every turn, often find themselves left behind. Meanwhile, those who are willing to exploit, deceive, and dominate rise to the top. This harsh reality forces us to confront an uncomfortable question. Is morality a weakness in the game of power? Yet the paradox is this. While the worst people often succeed in the short term, history is also filled with stories of their downfall. The question is not just why they rise, but whether their success is sustainable. And more importantly, what does it mean for those of us who refuse to abandon our principles? Nietzsche saw power as an undeniable force of life, something neither good nor evil in itself, but simply a truth of existence. To understand why the worst people succeed, we must first understand the nature of power itself. And to do that, we need to dive into one of Nietzsche's most controversial ideas: master morality versus slave morality. Let's go deeper. Imagine two warriors standing on a battlefield. One is strong, decisive, and fearless. He takes what he wants, shapes the world to his will, and does not ask for permission. The other is hesitant, waiting for external validation, seeking fairness, and hoping the world will reward his virtue. Which of these two is more likely to survive? Which is more likely to rule? Friedrich Nietzsche argued that morality itself is not a universal truth, but a creation of power struggles throughout history. He saw two fundamental moral systems: master morality and slave morality. These are not just abstract concepts. They explain why ruthless individuals often rise to dominance while those who prioritize kindness and fairness struggle. Master morality is the morality of the strong, the rulers, the conquerors. It is based on values like strength, courage, ambition, and power. To the masters, what is good is what enhances their ability to dominate, create, and assert their will upon the world. They do not seek approval. They define their own worth. They take responsibility for their destiny and do not see weakness as something to be protected. It is merely something to be overcome. Slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the oppressed, the powerless, those who cannot impose their will directly. Instead of celebrating strength, it glorifies humility, obedience, and self-sacrifice. It teaches that suffering is noble and that power is inherently evil. Nietzsche saw this as a moral system created by those who lacked the ability to dominate, a psychological adaptation that allowed them to survive in a world controlled by the strong. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Slave morality does not prevent the rise of the ruthless. It enables it. By condemning ambition, by shaming the pursuit of power, it leaves power in the hands of those who do not care about morality at all. While the noble-hearted hesitate, those who embrace master morality take control. And in a world where hesitation equals defeat, the results are inevitable. So, what does this mean for us? Should we abandon morality entirely and embrace the ruthless path? Or is there another way to reconcile strength and virtue? To answer that, we must look deeper into the psychology of those who rise to power, the ones who refuse to be victims of circumstance. Picture a vast, untamed wilderness. In this world, survival is not about fairness or kindness. It's about strength, adaptability, and the willingness to do whatever it takes. The lion does not ask permission to hunt. The storm does not apologize for its destruction. Nature does not reward morality. It rewards those who can endure, those who can dominate. Human society is no different. Beneath our laws and social contracts, the primal battle for survival still rages. Those who rise to power often share a defining trait: ruthlessness, not necessarily cruelty, but the ability to act decisively, unburdened by hesitation or guilt. This is not an accident. It is an evolutionary adaptation, a mechanism that has allowed individuals and empires alike to seize control in a world that does not wait for the hesitant. Psychologists have long studied the traits that predict success in competitive environments. Time and time again, we see the same patterns: high levels of ambition, a low sensitivity to fear, and perhaps most controversially, a reduced sense of empathy for those who stand in the way. This does not mean that all powerful people are psychopaths, but it does mean that many of them possess traits that allow them to act without the emotional constraints that hold others back. Consider the leaders, entrepreneurs, and conquerors who reshaped history. From Julius Caesar to modern business moguls, the pattern is clear. Hesitation is a liability, and power is taken, not given. The strongest do not wait for permission to lead. They step forward, take risks, and face consequences later. This is why the ruthless often rise while the hesitant remain in the shadows. But here's the paradox. Ruthlessness alone is not enough. Those who wield power without wisdom often face spectacular downfalls. The same qualities that allow a person to climb to the top can also be their undoing. A leader who rules through fear alone will eventually be consumed by the very forces they once controlled. History is littered with tyrants who believed they were invincible, until they weren't. So, if power is often seized by those who are ruthless, does this mean that morality and fairness are doomed to fail? Not necessarily. But to understand why, we need to challenge one of the greatest illusions of modern society: the belief that the world is fair. From childhood, we are told a comforting story: that the world is fair, that good people are rewarded, and that justice will always prevail. Fairy tales, religious teachings, and moral philosophies reinforce this belief. But then, as we step into reality, a brutal contradiction emerges. The hardest workers are not always the wealthiest. The most honest do not always lead. The kindest hearts are often the most broken. This disconnect is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The idea of fairness is, in many ways, a social construct, a narrative designed to maintain order rather than reflect reality. It is a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Power and success are not handed out based on merit alone. They are taken, fought for, and often hoarded by those who understand the game better than others. Psychological research has revealed a phenomenon called the just world fallacy, the tendency to believe that life is inherently fair, that people get what they deserve. This belief is dangerous because it encourages passivity. If we assume that goodness alone will lead to success, we risk ignoring the realities of competition, strategy, and power. And while we wait for justice, those who do not share our illusions are already moving forward. But does this mean morality is meaningless? Should we abandon all principles in the pursuit of power? Not quite. The key is to understand the game without becoming a slave to it. Those who suffer the most are often those who believe that simply playing nice will be enough. But those who learn to balance integrity with strategic thinking, who combine kindness with strength, are the ones who rewrite the rules. The truth is this: fairness is not something we can expect. It is something we must create. And that requires power. Nietzsche saw this struggle as a fundamental part of human existence. His answer was not to surrender to the illusion of fairness, nor to become mindlessly ruthless. Instead, he pointed to something higher, a way to transcend both weakness and cruelty. To understand this, we must explore one of his most revolutionary ideas: the Übermensch, the individual who rises beyond morality, beyond illusions, and beyond limitations. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast abyss. Behind you lies the world as it is, filled with injustice, limitations, and the oppressive weight of convention. Before you lies the unknown, a path only the bold dare to walk. Most will hesitate, shackled by fear and doubt, but a few will take the leap. These are the Übermenschen, the individuals who rise above the masses, who forge their own path, who redefine power on their own terms. Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, or Overman, is not about brute strength or blind domination. It is about self-overcoming. The Übermensch is someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstances, who does not accept imposed morality without question, and who shapes their own destiny instead of conforming to the expectations of others. At the heart of the Übermensch is the will to power. Unlike the passive morality of submission and guilt, the will to power is about embracing one's deepest instincts, to create, to transform, to impose meaning upon a meaningless world. It is not about control over others, but control over oneself. While the weak are trapped by fear, the Übermensch moves forward, untethered from societal illusions. But here's the key. The Übermensch is not ruthless for the sake of cruelty. Unlike the tyrants and manipulators who seize power out of insecurity, the Übermensch does not need validation. Their strength comes from within. They do not rely on deception or oppression, because their power is self-generated, independent of external approval or fleeting success. This is why the worst people may rise to power, but they will never truly transcend. The ruthless play a temporary game, climbing through manipulation and force. But the Übermensch plays the infinite game, building something greater than themselves. They are creators, not just takers. So, how do we embody this? How do we navigate a world that rewards the ruthless while refusing to become one of them? The answer lies in understanding power, not as a weapon, but as a tool. The next step is learning how to compete in a world that does not wait for the kind-hearted. Picture this. You're in a high-stakes game where the rules are written by those who play to win at any cost. If you hesitate, if you assume fairness will protect you, you lose. This is the reality many face in business, politics, and life itself. The ruthless know this. They take what they want. But does this mean you must become like them to survive? Not necessarily. The mistake most people make is believing they only have two choices: be ruthless or be a victim. But there is a third path, one that blends strategic thinking with integrity, one that allows you to compete without losing your soul. Nietzsche's philosophy wasn't about blind domination. It was about transcending weakness while maintaining authenticity. The key is understanding power without being enslaved by it. Here's how. One of the biggest weaknesses people have is their belief that life should be fair. It shouldn't. It never was. The strongest competitors accept this early on. They don't waste time complaining about injustice. They learn the rules of the game and use them to their advantage. This doesn't mean abandoning ethics. It means recognizing that power is neutral, and those who understand it wield it best. Many fail because they assume kindness alone will bring them success. But power is rarely given. It is taken. That doesn't mean becoming cruel, but it does mean understanding the minds of those who seek to exploit you. Strategic empathy means reading people deeply, recognizing their motives, and anticipating their moves. It allows you to navigate deception without becoming deceptive yourself. Most people are controlled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. The Übermensch, however, develops internal power. This means embracing discomfort, taking risks, and forging your own path despite opposition. The most successful people do not ask for permission. They create opportunities where none exist. There is a difference between mindless ruthlessness and controlled ruthlessness. The first is destruction without purpose. The second is the ability to make hard choices without hesitation. Sometimes, power requires walking away from toxic relationships, making unpopular decisions, or confronting uncomfortable truths. This is not cruelty. It is strength. The key is knowing when and how to apply it. The ruthless often rise fast, but they also fall hard. Why? Because their power is built on exploitation, not creation. The true Übermensch builds, whether it's a business, an idea, a movement, or a personal transformation. When you create value, you become indispensable. You do not need to manipulate because your power is earned, not stolen. So, can you succeed in a world that rewards the ruthless? Absolutely. But only if you stop playing by the old rules, stop expecting fairness, and start mastering power on your own terms. But this brings us to the ultimate question. Is power itself evil? Or is it simply misunderstood? Power. It's the force that drives the world, shaping the lives of those who possess it and those who are at its mercy. But is power inherently evil? Nietzsche's exploration of power wasn't just about domination. It was about creation. The drive to acquire power, according to Nietzsche, is often misunderstood. It's not about crushing others beneath your boot. It's about surpassing yourself, about transcending the limitations of the current moment and becoming more than you ever imagined. Yet, throughout history, power has often been linked to corruption. We've seen countless leaders who, once they gain the reins, fall prey to ego, greed, and tyranny. This paradox leaves us wondering, is power evil, or does it simply expose the worst parts of human nature? Nietzsche argued that power, in its purest form, isn't about harming others. It's about overcoming oneself, striving for greatness, and creating new values, not succumbing to the moralities imposed by society. However, society's moral compass often makes power seem corrupt. In a world where virtue is championed, the individual who seeks power is often viewed with suspicion. But what if this is a misunderstanding? What if, by rejecting conventional morality and creating your own rules, you are simply embodying the truest form of life, one that is raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic? Nietzsche didn't see the will to power as a simple desire for control over others. It was an inner force, a drive to live more fully, to explore the limits of your potential. In this light, power becomes an ethical pursuit, one that challenges you to break free from societal constraints and to define your existence on your own terms. But does this mean that everyone who seeks power is virtuous? Not necessarily. The path to power can be a double-edged sword, leading one either to enlightenment or to destruction. The difference lies in the intent. Is the quest for power a means to impose your will on others, or is it a process of self-overcoming, of crafting a reality that aligns with your highest aspirations? So, is power evil? Not inherently. It's a tool, one that, when wielded by a person of integrity, can lead to unimaginable greatness. But when used for selfish gain or to oppress others, it reveals the darker aspects of human nature. Nietzsche's challenge to us is to rethink power not as something to fear, but as something to master. Through discipline, strength, and an unwavering commitment to becoming more than we are today. If this exploration of power and success has made you think, challenged your assumptions, and sparked a deeper curiosity about life and philosophy, then make sure to subscribe to the Mirror of Being channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with those who need to hear this truth, and stay tuned for new content every day. Together, let's continue the journey toward understanding, growth, and the pursuit of a more powerful life.